My name is Eunice Baguma Ball. I'm the founder of the Africa Technology Business Network, which is a non-profit organization based in London that is really working to support African tech entrepreneurs to access the London tech ecosystem. So we run events here in London, roundtables for investors, and we also run a conference called the Africa Technology Business Forum, where we gather investors in London, as well as members of the tech and business community who are interested in the emerging opportunities in Africa tech.
Welcome to the African Tech Roundup, Eunice.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And happy Women's Day.
Happy Women's Day?
It's International Women's Day.
No, that's supposed to be on 8th of March.
Well, look, on the continent, certainly in South Africa, it's celebrated on the 9th of August, and it's actually a public holiday here. Yeah.
Well, anyway, we had an event on 8th of March. We had a pitch day for an all-women's pitch day, and it was International Women's Day then. But amazing if we have two. That's even more exciting.
Yeah,
so
actually, as you speak, I'm just going to make sure that I'm not getting my facts wrong, because it's
exactly like a guy getting International Women's Day.
Can you believe it? How embarrassing would that be?
It's not. But even worse would be if I got it wrong. So maybe I'm hoping you're wrong. Actually.
No, actually,
but I know maybe there's African. I've heard of African Women's Day.
So let's get that straight. You are absolutely right. Thursday, the 8th of March. The 8th of March is International Women's Day. So the next one will obviously be next year in 2018. Yeah. Let's see what South Africa is celebrating today. Yeah. So no, it's actually National Women's Day here in South Africa, the 9th of August, and it's in fact a public holiday. So everything's at a standstill to celebrate the ladies today.
Great. So I'm happy to be South African for this moment and to say thank you on behalf of all the
Well, you're halfway there with Africans, so
True.
So it's all good. You're one of us. So, well, and I thought I'd use that as a springboard really to firstly, I mean, you have an incredible project you guys are working on. We're going to talk about that, a woman-specific project that I'm really excited about. We'll get to that. But I want you to give me a quick sense of what your sense of the state of women in tech as far as Africa is concerned. I mean, speak to the continent, perhaps the diaspora where you're based. What is your sense, in a few lines, or what sort of filters to the top in terms of what's top of mind?
Yeah. So the first thing is, I think what we see in Africa is women are very entrepreneurial. I think the Africa Development Bank, has did a study. I think it's the Women Economic Index, and it says African women are actually more economically empowered than anywhere else in the world in terms of their activity in entrepreneurial activities. So we're running a lot of the businesses already, but the problem is we're running mainly the micro businesses. So when it comes to actually growth stage businesses, when it comes to accessing finance and credit to grow, we're finding that there are barriers, because when you move from the micro then to the SME and tech, then the numbers really, really, drop. So what the challenge then is not that we don't have the ability, we're not entrepreneurial. Actually, it's actually showing, even with micro businesses, we're having a greater impact on the community. So it says, investing in a woman, gives a 10 times return for the community and for her family, because they invest 90% back into their families. So we're starting from a really strong point. But what we're trying to understand and address is why, when it comes to growing, when it comes to accessing technology, there are those barriers. And I think that's what our program we developed was trying to address. How do we equip African women with the right innovation tools? How do we demystify technology to show that technology is a tool? If you're able to run your micro business, you're already solving a challenge for a customer, you're already growing your micro business and being able to pay school fees for your children, then you are able to use technology as a tool to grow your business and be more efficient and grow your customers. So sort of, in a way, first of all, demystifying this whole tech thing and making it something that's not alien, showing women that it's a tool that they can use in their business. And secondly, also the barriers around networks. I think when it comes to raising money or accessing credit, sometimes the issues are around not having the right networks, not having the right access. We as ATBN here in London, so as I mentioned, we do a lot of activities to expose and connect African startups to investors and the tech business community here in London. We've put out a call before for startups that we wanted to present to our community here, and we put out a call for something we run called Africa Tech Pitch. And always the numbers of women-led startups are low, and which for me is a very, very, it's almost a failure to me on my end. So having one of the 6 startups that we presented being women-led was, something that it was just unacceptable for me. And the challenge I found is like there's not many of them out there in the first place. So there's a pipeline issue. So I set up this accelerator program called Her Future Africa, and really it's trying to address the pipeline issue of women-led tech startups in the African ecosystem. And really starting from the point of getting women with the ideas, the young women who are entrepreneurial, who are already comfortable with technology because they're using digital, they're on social media, and then getting them to see technology as a tool that they can use to set up businesses, and thus address the pipeline issue and say, let's get more talent in, let's get more women into the ecosystem, let's get more women-led startups.
So earlier in the year, I pondered the conundrum, of the economics of sort of including women, or basically prioritizing women in as far as, or prioritizing the fast streaming of women into, whether it's corporate circles, whether it's founding circles, or in finance as well. The economics sort of work out in everyone's favor if we all back this thing. So the conundrum to me is why is it not happening?
Do you know what? I think I've thought about this as well. And I was reading there's a recent article, the Google guy who's been fired for sending the anti-diversity memo.
Oh, yeah,
and,
the quote-unquote Google manifesto.
Yes, exactly. He was saying, it's actually, inborn. Women have less aptitude for technology and etc. And that's so. And so I was having this thought, like, why would someone think that? And why have we, what is this issue? And I think for me, it's systemic. I think that if you look at the way work has evolved, for example, so when we started out with very manual tasks like people being coal miners and laborers and farmers, work that needed, sort of depended on muscle in a sense, I guess is where the trend started of more of men going to work and sort of women staying at home, kind of thing. We're moving into an age where now, that's not the case and work has changed and a lot of work is digital. But I think that the systems and the way work was created in the first place. So even things like hours of work, working 9 to 5, the shift system, it was all based on that historical design of work. And I think what needs to happen now is that change where because the nature of work has changed, the way work is structured has changed, and means that women are participating more, but also means that things like flexibility around family, the fact that both men and women are equally contributing to their households. They both have responsibilities for looking after children. The fact that we've moved, it's now expensive to say you'll have house help or whatever, or, some of these communities, even with, even we always imagine like having house help look after a child is something that rich people do. But when you look at the way some of these communities worked, sometimes they did things like leave their kids in groups and they were raised in groups because of this. So you have this scenario where you want to have one-to-one relationship with your children. You're both equally contributing. Something has got to give. Like I think it's just that shift, that shift that has to happen in where the nature of work has to meet the new workforce that is doing it and the new nature of work. And I think that's where the almost teething pains are happening. And we're seeing these discussions. But like with all things, we moved from like the manual industrial to management, and that completely changed work. I think now that women are fully 100% part of the workforce, that's going to change as well. And it will happen. It's this inevitable push that it will have to happen.
Listening to you, I don't get a sense that you're frustrated at the status quo to the point of like being bitter about it or anything like that. I mean, give me a sense of how being African and your context, maybe culturally, might give you a certain pragmatism or a certain view to the issues that maybe a counterpart of yours in say London, born and bred, in Europe or somewhere else in the developed world might not see or understand. Does that sort of background in your case factor into how you think about these issues at all?
I mean, so this is something I thought about when I moved to London. So I moved to London about 3.5 years ago. So I'm, born and raised in Uganda, and that's where I, lived most of my life, except when I left to do my master's briefly. So coming here and, being very much a supporter and interested in women in technology, already having that background, I joined a number of sort of women in tech groups here and just women in business groups as well, because I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to use the opportunity. I was, just setting up my organization. One of the things I quickly noticed that was different between me and I guess, the typical British woman is there was a sense of guilt that I don't necessarily think we have in Africa in terms of, every time we talked about, balancing work and life and being able to pursue your career or try and set up your business while also, giving the time that you want to your family, that a lot of women here had a lot of guilt around that. The fact that they were going out and pursuing their dreams, they felt was time directly being taken away from their kids, which I guess growing up in the African context where you have quite a lot of support raising your kids. And, even with my friends, I know obviously we have very short maternity leave. So every time it was time to leave, lots of people didn't want to go back to work. They missed their kids. But it was never really in a sense of like guilty, like they knew I have to work. I have to make money. I am going to work because of my kids, for my kids. Actually, I probably wouldn't work if I didn't even have, I'm working harder now. A lot of people tell you I work harder now and I'm chasing my dreams harder now exactly because of my kids, because I want to leave a legacy for my kids. And it was a way that I think it's slightly different. And I think that's what I've found is a different, nuance in the sort of women's empowerment or women's conversations here versus the ones back home. I think, like you said, we work and we are innovating to survive. Everyone, there's very few families in Africa that can survive on a single salary. So you don't have this pool of, say, moms who are the moms that are, at the bake sales, baking everything, they're at every PTA, making you feel guilty like you're the working mom who's not, who's...
making the best outfits for the plays. And
exactly. We don't really have that group of people to make you feel guilty and feel like you're a bad mom. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah,
it's the
it
one
does.
thing
actually, it's very
noticed,
insightful hearing it the way you're putting it, actually.
Yeah, that I noticed is that different. I mean, the struggles are still the same, obviously, in conversations around women empowerment in Africa, you're coming up with, other issues, again, of, domestic violence or whatever that come in that don't necessarily, that I guess do come in UK conversations, but not as much. But if we are looking specifically at the right of women to pursue their ambitions, to set up their businesses, to pursue their careers, I think that's the thing that I've noticed is slightly different. And in a way, I kind of consider an advantage not having that sort of burden of guilt. But then again, I don't have any kids at the moment, so I might be. I have a friend of mine who's also Ugandan who said, there's a little bit of that there anyway, especially, obviously, even when you're having help or family or support helping you with your kids, there's still that sense of, you're proud. I'm very, very proud of what you're achieving and the legacy you're leaving with them and showing them, yeah, mommy, does work, mommy can build a business, but you do go home and find maybe you've missed some things, you've missed some milestones. Yeah. And there is still, so I'm not saying that African moms 100% don't feel that guilt, but I think that in a way it's not something that we sort of, we understand that it's you have to go out and work, and you have to go out and contribute.
Yeah. And not to make women's issues about men at all, because as men, we have that tendency to sort of make everything about us. But I mean, in reflecting on what you're saying, I sense that many African men I know were really honest with themselves, men with children or perhaps married. They might admit that their ideal scenario is giving their wives or the women in their lives the option to stay home if they wanted to, which is strange. I mean, you'd think at this point, like, we'd sort of back a more quote unquote progressive agenda in the sense that I should almost expect that she wouldn't want to or anything like that. Or whereas I suppose we definitely still live in a sort of conservative mindset where as a man, I'd consider myself balling or like seriously like doing my job.
Sorry, can I ask you one question? In this scenario of these guys who might be thinking like this, are they also thinking, and I'm also, I'm going to pay the bills, we're going to live the lifestyle that we want to live, our kids are going to, go to a great school, and I've got this all covered? Or are they... What is the thinking on this?
Yes, I don't think in that scenario there is no compromise with regards to the life we want to live. In other words, the best schools possible, living where we'd love to live.
Let me tell you something. Now the problem, where the problem comes in, is the majority of men that I know who think like that are on the other end of the spectrum. They're the guys who they're not able to actually fully support their families. They want the family to live in, at whatever level that they are able to provide.
At the expense of their desire to be...
Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of the women are going out and working because, the kids have been sent home for school fees for months,
Right.
So this mindset, and I know that mindset you're talking about, and usually you find it, like you said, in that very traditional mindset in people in the rural areas, and there are people that are not well off. They're not, saying, I've got everything covered, stay at home.
Right.
No, it's more from a, sort of a power domination point of view of, I want to control everything. I don't want you to be empowered because once you have money, then, you can go off and do stuff, and I can't control you. It's really an issue of control. I think that... I do understand there are a few people that I'm always surprised as well. People who've been university educated, people that, even people that are my age that will have a conversation and I will find something that I think, a mindset. I'm just like, really?
Yeah,
today, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
If I'm honest, and I'm kind of being vulnerable here because I mean, on some level, I know better, and I also know how problematic it can be if I'm on the far end of the spectrum of this sort of thinking.
Yeah, but the thing is, all the friends or people that the peers I've talked to who have that little thing that I guess I put down to the society we've been raised in, kind of, still molds in that sense. And even though we are progressive, if you go back one generation to our parents' generation, we were, raised quite conservative. So I think we still have remnants of that. But the thing that I guess tips it for them is they do want that extra paycheck coming in. They are happy when their wife, goes and brings in the money, and they're able to take a family holiday to Dubai that they wouldn't otherwise. So it's almost like they want, have their cake and eat it too. And I think that's the difference that I see, and hopefully hopefully it's progress in a way. I mean, I still think that in this day and age, that should not be the case. So,
I mean, there are people listening to us, who are women listening to you going, yeah, man, like you're obviously hitting home in as far as expressing sentiments that are rarely expressed, even on this show, I have to admit. I mean, I'm embarrassed at how few women we have within the context of tech and innovation on our show. And it's easy to hide behind the fact that we're relatively better than other platforms or that kind of thing. And speak to men, speak your heart to men listening to this show, Africans living on the continent, Africans in the diaspora who want to be part of the solution, right? Who want to be part of harnessing what the data is showing. I mean, the data is, as you said, and as I've, written before, in certain articles I've published, but I mean, the data shows that if we back this agenda, everyone wins. So speak to men who want to be part of the solution. How do we get in?
I mean, really, for me, the reason I'm so, passionate about, women's equality and all these things, I don't think, first of all, I will say, I don't believe equality is sameness.
Right.
So just like, I guess in a way you have a team, everyone has different roles to play.
Right.
And it's not that one role is important than the other. I think the challenge has been is that the way the roles were defined and distributed was based on a different world from which we live in. So it's not fully utilizing the abilities and the strengths of the team players fully. And that structure needs to change. And women need to be given to fully contribute and fully bring themselves to family, to the communities, to to society. And I see it as a missed opportunity. I see it. The funny thing is, I studied engineering, and I always say myself I'm the least engineering kind of person that you could think of. But in a way, I'm obsessed with inefficiency. I find like a waste of resource. It's inefficient. That's the whole thing. I think women inequality is inefficient, even as a man. Like we said, if you're working to 100% support a family, there is someone in your family as well who's a partner and a player on this team who also has abilities, talents, skills, probably even above and beyond yours, that is not using them.
Right.
That is an inefficiency in the system, right?
Right.
And I think same comes with tech. Like if we're seeing women entrepreneurial, women are the backbones of communities in Africa. I don't think there's anyone who disputes that. So then when it comes to areas where like technology, we're seeing technology is a tool that allows you to impact so many people at the same time, to be more efficient, to grow, to scale. It's a powerful tool for solving problems. And when you look at the fact that African women are, usually disproportionately affected by the challenges on the African continent, who better then to sort of be part of creating the solution? If we are all definitely passionate about really seeing Africa change, who better then than, these women on whose backs these communities have been for centuries, being given the power and the tools to be a part and at the forefront of innovation. I think that when if we make tech go, sort of the Silicon Valley, route where it's, it's almost all, boys club and, it's all about this exclusivity, then we are missing out on giving something that's a really powerful tool to solve our challenges. And we're leaving out people who understand the problems, who have potential, who've already shown their ability to drive economic growth. And so it's a loss and it's a missed opportunity for us. And I think that is the thing that, in a sense, I hope appeals to people's mind, because it's not about it just being fair. I'm not saying give up your position as I think with all societies, there's kind of power balances. So I think one of the challenges some men might find with the women equality angle is I feel like I'm giving up some of my power to share it with somebody else. My kind of argument, my appeal to is you're actually losing. Like we would be moving so much faster, so much ahead if all the members of our society, men and women, were fully contributing to this, developing the solutions that are going to drive us forward.
I love that, because it's more in that context. You're appealing to people who don't, for whom like a moral debate doesn't appeal, or a moral argument doesn't appeal, or an ethical argument or a human rights argument doesn't appeal. This is just bad for business. This is just bad for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been interviewing women in tech across Africa, and I've had these amazing stories and insights. And there's one lady in particular I interviewed who was saying, look, I consider myself, she said she's Temi, the lady who runs Life Bank in Nigeria, the founder of Life Bank in Nigeria. And she said, I am a member of the family. As a member of the family, my role is to contribute, and my role is also to take. When you're part of the team, the guy who is the striker also expects people to be
serve the ball, to
him.
like basically
exactly. You expect people to pass you the ball, and I think that's the challenge with women. It's like we've been put in this scenario where it's like we're required to give, and never to expect to take. And that's why when you have a partner who is supportive, who helps you, it's almost you're so grateful, like they are a saint. they shouldn't be. It is as it should be. Like they are part of the team. They're there to take from you and you support them, but they're also there to support you. That is how it is supposed to be. And we shouldn't feel guilty about saying, watch the kids. I have a business meeting. I need to pursue my career. I need to pursue my dream. It shouldn't be an issue of, guilt and men shouldn't feel like they are saints and should get, some kind of special halo for doing that. No, you're part of a team.
Wow. Well put. Well put. Excellent segue, by the way. Let's talk about why you're speaking to amazing African women embedded in really powerful roles within tech, within big business across the continent, across the world. Tell us a little bit about this project and how it came about.
So I'm putting together a series of interviews with African female tech founders from across Africa and the diaspora, and putting them together into a book we're calling Founding Women. So part of this came about. So as I mentioned earlier, we do a women-focused tech entrepreneurship accelerator called Her Future Africa, and we ran that earlier this year in Ghana with 32 young women. And one of the things we found the most impactful for participants, according to their feedback, was when we brought in mentors to actually speak to them. So, we had this intensive bootcamp where we're giving them all sorts of tools around, defining your business and your vision and speaking to customers and communicating your idea. We give them lots of tools and lots of theory. And that was great. But I think, for them, the most powerful thing was able to come in, sit down with someone who's actually done it, because I think they were feeling overwhelmed at some point, like, are we going to be able to do this? Right. And sit down with someone who had exactly all the same questions and had still taken that one step forward and the foot other. And they found that really, really impactful. And then unfortunately, we're not able to get as many of the founders that we had around technology specifically. And it made me think, because we're trying to get women in technology, women starting up businesses in technology, how can I get that same experience of actually allowing aspiring young women to read these stories and just understand that it is possible, that you can do it. There are people that are already doing it, given that we don't have that many women in technology leading tech businesses in the first place. So I looked around I've been in the Africa tech space for a few years now, and I just looked around the different women who I know are out there. I think for me, I thought it would be really powerful to put their stories together into one resource that will be able to impact not only the women who go through our program, but anyone who picks it up and reads it. And I think that from the interviews, it's not just beneficial for a young woman or a young African woman who's aspiring to be to get into tech or to set up a business. It's really they're really inspiring stories for anyone. And what I've managed to do is get people who are at various stages of the journey. So some people who've, like Hilda Mora, who's actually exited and sold one business and is now on her second startup. And I remember asking her, like, so you went through all that and now you're doing it all over again. So, really amazing stories, stories like Rebecca Enonchong, who set up $1 million global business, to people who are just, earlier on in their journeys, people who failed at the first one and are trying again. So I'm really providing a range of diverse stories that we hope young women across Africa will see themselves in one of these stories. And we also have women who are techie themselves, so people who've taught themselves how to code or who had a degree in computer science. But we have people who completely did not, One of my interviewees said she's a reluctant entrepreneur. She's just she didn't really ever want to be an entrepreneur. It was just all different kinds of paths to this, and people who have no technical background at all, but then managed to get a team together and sharing how they did it to go around setting up a technology business. And I think the one message that resonates with all of them is that should, if you're not techie or you're not necessarily have tech skills, that should not stop you. Tech is just a tool. And one of them put it really clearly and said, even if you had tech skills, there would be other skills you didn't have. Maybe you won't be good at sales. Maybe you won't be good at marketing. Maybe you won't be good at something else, at pitching to investors. So you need all these things to come together. You need the tech with the communication, to come together. And whichever ones you have, you always have to somehow build a team and network to get the others in. So similarly with tech, it's just another skill that you need to access, and you can learn if you're so inclined, but you can also get it through other people. And it just shouldn't be this barrier. Like I think there's just been this, I think even the way we put it, like, oh, women in tech, it's just like this tech is this thing you enter, it's this club you enter, and really what you want to do to the book.
There's a sense of otherness.
Yes,
that excludes you. Oh, exactly. I presume there's a young woman listening to this right now who, even hearing you speak, feels like you're over there and that's for you, know, and one day maybe it might be for me.
And that's what I do. I get these women's stories and you put it in a way showing you what they've been through. They've had the same challenges. They've had the same obstacles. One of the ladies I interviewed is a single mom. And, she found out she was pregnant just as she was, sort of, thinking about starting her business. So the journeys and the stories are so personal, and you see these women and where they are and what they're doing. And I'm hoping it will really inspire anyone that's being held back, anyone that thinks, any young woman that thinks that, they can't do something, or they're kind of hesitating, or, that's kind of what the book is about. It's just for us is to empower and unleash this potential that we know is out there among young women across Africa. When we did our program with the 30 women and their ideas, I remember we had a demo day on 8th of March, International Women's Day.
Oh, okay. The international one, not the South African one.
I remember sitting in the room and these ladies were pitching, and, we'd given them, quite intensive training. They were pitching like pros, saying about their route to market and who their customer was and, what their business model was going to be. And I was like, why do we not have women-led startups? Like, look at these women. Like, the ideas are incredible. Their energy is incredible. The way what they're presenting is amazing. And it just made me realize the potential that's out there, that's just waiting to be unlocked, that's waiting to be an opportunity. And for many of them, they'd never even been to where we hosted up our bootcamp was at iSpace in Ghana, which is like the leading tech hub in Ghana. And many of them hadn't even been there before. And they had incredible tech ideas. And this was the first time, and we'd introduced them into the ecosystem. They now had co-working membership there, because iSpace was generous enough to offer us the free co-working membership for all our participants. And all of a sudden, they were plugged in. One of our participants actually met a co-founder, through that. And so it was just amazing to me how the potential is already there. I think it's just giving them, and that's what we're trying to do through our programs, giving them the right tools. That boost of, role models, I think are important to show you can, and it's doable, and you can work through those challenges. And then it's giving access to the right networks to say, join the ecosystem, come in.
Yeah. Here's why I think you're really onto something. The world comes to us for stories, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And and I love that you're finally taking charge of shaping a narrative that, for our people, for us, by us, which is one thing I love. And the other thing I really love is inherent to your organization, and it's even in your name, and even what you just mentioned now, the Africa Technology Business Network. I've been part of very vibrant debates of late regarding, investor bias in Africa startup scene and really how most of the money that ends up in startups, most of it that comes from abroad to finance quote unquote local startups ends up, financing startups backed by, expats and this access to network or lack thereof is turning into this proxy for perpetuating, stereotypes, perpetuating prejudice, and really just keeping a whole generation in the dark and unengaged. And so on those for those two reasons, I can't endorse enough like the work you guys do and the project you guys have going. No, genuinely. Rebecca Nanchong is a friend of the show. There are people in your network that have put us on to the stuff you guys are doing, and more power to you, man. What can I say?
Thank you. Yeah. I guess, just mentioning, like for me, I see, ATBN as local African startups having an insider, I guess, in the global ecosystem.
Exactly.
That's what
I love
I'm
that.
trying to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm advocating, I'm finding, really smart startups. And it's also trying to do the translation. I think part of the reason we started the programs to actually support entrepreneurs and specifically female entrepreneurs on the ground is to translate those expectations. So there is a certain way that an international investor here is expecting you to present your business in terms of this is what they're looking for. They want you to understand what your market is, how you're going to access that market, how are you going to grow. If I give you this investment, how are you going to use it? And we're finding that some of the African startups don't necessarily have that. And I guess for me, again, is if we can grow into this credible organization, continue to grow into this credible organization that's representing Africa Tech, because a lot of the argument for, say international investors investing in expatriate founders is that they know them, they understand them. So if as organizations like ATBN outside of Africa, building that brand, if we can become that proxy for that sort of sense of trust and start to work and prepare entrepreneurs in terms of the expectations that international investors want, and as well as translating to the investors. We actually had a session at our annual forum last year around value-added investment. And the question was, what value should international investors add to startups? What do startups need? So normally the panel is the other way around. It's like, what does an investor want from the startup? Actually, we were saying investing in an African startup is not just like investing in a Silicon Valley startup. There's a lot more that needs to go in because the ecosystem is nascent. So you need to be able to come in with, you're probably going to have to get your hands dirty as well. And it was kind of flipping the conversation. And I think that is something that we as ATBN are trying to do, is like, you think, they need to prove themselves to you. You need to prove themselves to us. Do you understand the market? Are you bringing more value, or are you just bringing money?
Dumb money,
Exactly. But so that's us. Thank you so much for those kind comments.
And I mean, listen, everyone listening, head to africatbn.com. Check out what Eunice and her team are up to. Tell us how we can make sure this book happens. Tell us how we can make sure that you're fully supported with regards to landing the best possible interviews, featuring the best possible examples of female African excellence in your book. I know there's a crowdfunding campaign on the go. Tell us what to do.
Yes, great. So we're running a crowdfunding campaign to help us, first of all, to print copies of the book when we have that ready. So we're aiming to have those ready by Christmas. So you can support by pre-ordering a copy of the book. And not only that, every book that is ordered, we're actually going to be giving away one for free to a young, promising female entrepreneur. It's identified across the continent, either through our programs and also through our social media campaign. So those women that we think will really be accelerated in their journey by having a resource like this. So not only can you get a copy for yourself, you can actually help a young woman to access one. Another thing, actually, we would love to hear more from African female founders. Obviously, all the ones I've found have been through my networks. I've interviewed over 10 of them so far, but would love to interview more. So if there is a female tech entrepreneur, they should be in a tech-enabled business. We're quite broad in our definition of tech, but they should be the founder, the co-founder. We're very active on social media, on Facebook and on Twitter at AfricaTBN. Just tag her or mention her name with the hashtag Founding Women, and we will definitely see that and sort of try to reach out to them. Also, anything you can do to help share the campaign. So we have the details about the campaign are pinned on our social media pages again, or if you just search hashtag Founding Women, online, you'll be able to see all the activities and get the link to the crowdfund. So please share. Let's make this book happen. At the moment, we're at 10% of our campaign, which means we can give away 15 books, and that's enough to support one woman for 6 months, dedicated support to actually help them set up their business through our accelerator program. And we are looking to raise £10,000 to help 10 women for 6 months through our program and give away 150 books. So help us get there, please. Hashtag Founding Women.
It's definitely a cause worth supporting. Eunice Baguma Ball of Africa Technology Business Network, repping Uganda out there in London. Thank you so much for chatting with us here on the African Tech Roundup.
You're welcome.